just waiting for Mr. Marzano to return, and then we will begin. Thank you for waiting. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start the meeting. We have nothing to report out from closed session. Dr. Gibson, do we have any deletions or corrections to the agenda?
No.
Lori, are we good to go? Okay. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are going to have the presentations and recognitions. We have 3 on our agenda for today. First up is Ione Elementary, Mr. Huss.
Good evening, and thank you for having us here tonight. Thank you for allowing me to recognize 3 of our outstanding staff members at Ione Elementary School. It's an honor and a privilege to recognize them. One of them are not here tonight. I don't know what happened, but first my honoree was going to be Lisa Andrews. She's a bus driver that has served Ione Elementary School for I can't tell you how many years. She's done such a great job of connecting with students. And we were talking yesterday in our administrative meeting, the importance of bus drivers and how they are our first connection to our students. They can tell us if they've had a good day, a bad day, and what's going on at home. And Lisa has been able to do that exceptionally well. And I can't count over the years how many times in the morning she's come to me and said, check on this student. He's going to need a check-in. And so I was going to recognize Lisa for that commitment to our students of Ione Elementary School for Amador County, that connection that she gives us. So Lisa's not here, but that was my first recognition. My second recognition is Piper Moore. Yeah, if I have to stand here, you have to stand here. Piper was a fairly new employee to Ione Elementary. She was hired in October, about that time, and she was hired as a lunch duty aide. And since then, she's now an instructional aide for 6 hours. And she's doing wonderful things with our students, helping them do things like keep your shoes and socks on at school and get their homework out of their backpack and make sure they use the correct restroom. And she's done a wonderfully amazing job with that and making connections with students. But what I wanted her here for tonight is that you'd recognize that you're standing in front of a hero in Piper. Piper was 7th or 8th day on her job as our cafeteria aide. And she was doing her job when she recognized that international sign of, "Oh no, I am choking." Piper walked over before anybody knew what was happening. The student's face was turning blue already. And she had him stand up and she removed the object from his throat without a problem, quickly, quietly, and saved the young man from at least passing out, if not something worse. And we took care of the student. We called mom, the whole 9 yards. And when I went back to check up on Piper, she was basically telling me, like, that's my job, isn't it? What's the big deal? I didn't do anything special. I don't think she ever realized how much I appreciate her for just that simple act and how much she truly is a hero to that student. So for Piper, I wanted to recognize you in front of the school board and let them know how awesome you are. And last, somebody you may know, our third recognition, Miss Julia Mandison. Julia is one of the few people left at Ion Elementary who knew me as the janitor. So she has been a supporter of mine for a lot of years, and she's one of the people that encouraged me to go back to school to get my teaching credential. As a young teacher, she helped me and motivated me to do my best every day, and now as an administrator, she has held my feet to the fire, patted me on the back when I might have deserved it, and made sure that I knew when I made a mistake. And that is greatly appreciated because I value that kind of friendship. But I wanted to recognize her tonight she's been teaching for 1 or 2 or 3 decades?
Yeah, 3.
Yeah, 3 decades. And she...
Oh, God, that sounds awful.
And she has made a huge impact on her students' lives, every student that's came through her classroom. They have been motivated to improve their life. They have been motivated to do better in this world. She has stayed in connection with them. She has motivated them into adulthood and is there to guide them and show them how much she believes in them all the way to this day from her first student she ever had. Not only that, some of you may not realize, Julia was recognized as the VFW Teacher of the Year for our section. Julia was also recently recognized for the VFW Teacher of the Year for the district, which encompasses Calaveras County, San Joaquin County, Amador County, and a few others. So she has done an amazing job for her students over these 30 years, and I just wanted to let her know in front of all of you that Ion Elementary is going to miss you. We value you, and we have always known you've done exceptional things. So. By the way, that's the 3rd time this year I've made her cry.
Please don't forget to come get a picture with Haley. Yes. Next for presentations, Ion Junior High School, Mrs. Becerra.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Gibson, cabinet members, and community. My name is Maria Elena Becerra. I'm the principal. You guys already know that. I did write something, so I'm going to stick to what I wrote. This is Rebecca. She is my vice principal, and I think we are a good team, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay, so it is with great pleasure that I acknowledge these great individuals who have demonstrated the meaning of the true team player. As you all know, I'm new to the district, and getting to know everybody at work and getting to know them as a person has been a real treat. Selecting these individuals was difficult, as I believe many of the Ion junior high staff is deserving of this recognition. This is not in a specific order, but I'm going to have Ms. White introduce the first three, and then I will go and introduce the rest.
Okay, I'm a little taller than she is.
Obviously.
The kids hate it because she sneaks up on them. She's super stealth. The first one is going to go to Martha, a.k.a. Marty Gambles. She's not here with us tonight. Marty is known to many of us as Marty, as we just said, and she is a doer. She's our health assistant who monitors all of our students at our site with diabetes. She always finds ways to support students, staff, and administration in every way possible. I call her my Girl Friday. She doesn't seem to let anything stop her from getting her job done, and she has an outstanding work ethic beyond anything that we've ever seen, and always makes herself available to help across the board. And again, she's not here tonight.
Can I say something else? She's also the one person that the students go to when they need a shoulder to cry on. So.
Next person is Deanna Bell. Deanna, she's here. We like to call Deanna the historian of Ione Junior High. I'm acknowledging her for always giving Rebecca and I, because she wrote this, Maria Lana and I, the backstory behind some of the decisions that were made in the past. Both Maria Lana and I are new to Ione Junior High as administrators, and her in the district, and we both really appreciate all of the information that she gives to us. There you go. Yes. And our other Girl Friday, we'd like to invite up Shalia Poor. Oops. I skipped one. Shalia Poor is our intervention teacher. And if I had provided you with a definition of a true team player, this is her. The definition would have a picture of her next to it. She has an initiative to support students and teachers as the intervention teacher. She leads up many clubs, and they love Origami Club. She has kids, we have lots of cranes all over campus. But really and truly, she is also our Girl Friday. We have to, obviously, at our site, and I'm rambling, sorry, I went off there.
That's fine.
We have to utilize her as our substitute so much because we don't, we've had absences, and she steps up with a smile every day, and I know she's like going, oh my gosh, not again. But we really do appreciate her, and we were so happy that she's on our staff.
Yes.
Yes. All right, there you go.
Well, go ahead. Go to the next one. Deborah Dabby, she is not here today, unfortunately. She is our cafeteria lady, as the kids call her, and she is always flexible when we have to change our schedule. She loves to keep her kitchen clean and organized, and I appreciate that. And I think if you work in the kitchen, you know that if you have a clean kitchen, then the food is good, right? So I do appreciate her and how she always advocates so that it remains clean, it continues to be clean, and she works really well with others, and she loves the kids. So I am so grateful to have her as part of our team. So she's not here, so we'll represent that tomorrow. The next person is Ms. Brown. Ms. Brown is an outstanding teacher. Just, sorry. And I have, she finds, I don't know why I'm nervous. So anyway, she finds creative ways to get students to love to write. I've heard students tell me that they hated writing, and because of her, they love her class. They love being in there. She is compassionate. She has high academic standards and high behavior expectations. So thank you. And I have told her many, many times that if I could clone her, I would. So thank you, Ms. Brown. The next person is, and I think she already knows, she is one of the most passionate teachers, math teachers. So come on, Ms. Cable. I have been into many algebra classes, and let me tell you, I have never seen such a dramatic algebra teacher that uses her hands, uses her everything to teach. And it's been a pleasure working with you, Ms. Cable. Thank you. It is so exciting to see somebody love math as much as you do, and I appreciate. You should see her in the classroom. One of the things that I also love about Ms. Cable is that she does not give up on her students, and she has said it over and over and over. There are some challenging behaviors in the class, and she has not given up on the students, and she has said it over and over, I am not giving up on you. And she has gone with me to home visits. She has gone with me to talk to the parents in the parking lot because she needs to talk to them. So I really appreciate that she has gone above and beyond. So thank you, Ms. Cable. This passionate teacher. The next person is Mr. Lee. Can you come up? Mr. Lee is our avid site coordinator / teacher, and he has done an outstanding job recruiting for the program and making the program such a success in not just in every individual student, but also as a school as a whole. He believes in the program and works very hard to ensure that the students and the teachers are supported in every way. He has provided professional development to his colleagues and collaborates with them so that we can continue this program school-wide. In addition, Mr. Lee has also took over the athletic director position, and the only reason he said he took it was because he wanted to make sure that the students had the sports. He spent hours and hours organizing, supervising, and monitoring the different sports. So thank you, Mr. Lee. You are very much appreciated. The next person, last but not least, do you have the code? Oh, okay. Is Marissa Corey. Can you come up? She is our school counselor, and our students are so lucky to have a counselor who is caring and always looks out for them and finds ways to support them socially and emotionally. She provides support to the individual students, groups, and makes referrals outside agencies. When I first met Marissa, I gave her some suggestions on what to do for our program, and she went back and she implemented those programs. Having the Google Classroom, creating the program for the whole year, and the counseling program for the whole year, just so that we could have a counseling program that was going to be successful for our students, to be able to address a lot of the needs that the students are dealing with after COVID. So thank you. I know, even though sometimes I make you eat, because she doesn't eat. She doesn't eat lunch, that's what I mean. So, as you know, these professional individuals are more than just what they were hired to do. They are the program, they are the face of our school, they are the backbone of our school and district, and as they are a part of our amazing ION team. So together, I think we have an outstanding team. So thank you for your time.
While they are getting their photos, so we want to recognize them for people who are not here to see it in person. I wanted to congratulate and thank all of the staff who are recognized, and even the ones who are not recognized, because nobody knows how much we rely on their kindness and their compassion, their expertise, and their knowledge every day is what makes the magic happen. Our final presentation, Argonaut Esports. Mr. Maciel. I am really looking forward to this one.
I'm surprised you guys invited us. This is a topic I could talk about for hours. Hi, I'm Justin Maciel. I'm the network technician and one of the coaches for Argonaut Esports.
Hi, I'm Greg Barnes. I'm the PC Tech 2 for the district.
So we should have a slideshow coming up there. Yeah. So 2 weekends ago now. Is it 2 weekends ago?
Whew.
We took 18 kids from Argonaut to experience DreamHack down in San Diego. We all piled onto a school bus and rode down for 12 hours. And it was quite the journey.
12 hours one way.
Yeah,
Let
12
me
hours one
clarify.
way.
12 hours one way, 12 hours back.
It was quite the journey. We arrived really quickly. DreamHack is a 3-day global esports and gaming convention. It all started in I believe Sweden like 10 years ago, and what basically started out as, hey, we want to get together and play games all weekend. It has turned into a global cosplay tournament where people build suits from their favorite video game characters to esports tournaments where the main attraction of this DreamHack was actually the Rocket League
Winter Major.
Winter Major, where the prize pool was $350,000. So you get to experience everything from professional esports athletes competing at the highest level in their games to you get to meet voice actors from the games that are acting out the characters. You get to meet the artists that are making the games, and it's really a great opportunity to experience what the gaming industry has to offer to the kids. They say that for every one player that's up on stage at any given time for a major tournament, like in Rocket League, for example, it's 3 versus 3. There's 3 people on each team. There's about 50 people backstage per person on stage to make that show happen. That's everything from stage production to videography to photography to interviewers. You've got coaches, you've got management, you've got personal chefs, you've got doctors taking care of them, making sure that they're physically active and they're not straining themselves. There's a ton that goes into making it all happen.
Yeah.
This San Diego was actually the biggest that has happened in the United States. We had 41,000 plus attendees throughout the 3 days.
It was also the first time that they had held one in San Diego.
Yes, this is the first time. They had it in LA right before COVID.
Yeah. And it encompassed all of the Gaslight, what am I trying to say? San Diego Convention Center, which I don't know if you've ever seen or heard. It is massive.
It is
City
massive.
blocks wide.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
We took up, I think it was like 4 or 5 sections of it, and then there was a second floor dedicated strictly to Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
There was overall throughout the multitudes of games and the cosplay tournament and the Magic tournament, there was just under $1 million in prize money given out. The Rocket League Championship that I was referring to, it actually peaked very high, considering recent Rocket League viewerships, just over 250,000 viewers. That's both online and in person. I think in person for finals, they ended up having like 20,000 of those people there.
Oh, at least.
It was a packed stadium. I had a video, but unfortunately we don't have the audio. I don't know if it'll show up. So this is a glimpse of the stadium. The picture on the left it's a little dark, but far back in the stadium. Up in the center, you can see the 2 big screens, and the players are actually under those screens. They build out a square of screens so you can view it from all angles. And then on the right, you can see a picture of the team who won raising the trophy, and it's actually the screen right above where the players are standing. It was an incredible event. Circular stadium, there was an entire back section of probably 40, 50 people in the finals that all had one team's jersey on. They all had signs. They all had chants. They had chants for when they scored. They had chants for when the enemy team scored. The energy was incredible. One of our kids said that it was like a concert for video games.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's truly an amazing experience. I had experienced my first DreamHack back in 2019, where I went to compete. And fell in love with it ever since, and have been trying to figure out a way to get myself back, and thought, well, there are so many career opportunities to see here in person, and what there is for the kids to see. Like, well, if I'm not going to make it as a player, what can I do to be involved in gaming and esports as an industry?
Yeah.
And this is a fantastic opportunity for it. They got to see, this is a couple of the group shots that we were able to get before they spread out throughout the convention center throughout the 3 days. It was a good group of kids. We're very fortunate to have kids that are respectful and mature and listen to us. Made the trip a lot easier.
Yeah, if I could say that our kids, when we started esports now, this is our second year, we are so grateful for the amount of support that you guys have given us and okaying everything and having our back with it. As two guys who grew up in this small county where we didn't hunt or like fish or grow up with a cowboy hat on my head or anything like that. Nothing against it, but we grew up with hobbies and things that we didn't, I didn't hang out with anybody in the area who did that.
Not really.
And so now having the school district step in and say that we support whether you want to be a professional or anything in between, or even if you want to take what you've learned here and put it on a college resume because you're the president of esports or what have you, even just the experience while being here and turning that into videography or communications or
Casting or anything.
the seemingly endless amount of things that you could do with this, we are very, very appreciative.
Definitely.
So
Yeah, it's been, you know, as someone who is pursuing the professional side of esports for years, I've been following esports as both a passion and like a potential career path for 10 years now. I gave myself carpal tunnel because I didn't take care of myself while I was playing and practicing a ton. And right before my DreamHack trip, we were, you know, we're treating it like any other sport. We were practicing 5-6 days a week, 6 hours a day, because we were competing at like top levels. That's not realistic for every person. So this has been a great opportunity to say, hey, the experience that I gained through my playing has now made me a coach that has helped you guys all improve. One of our kids this year, actually, he's graduating. His name's Gabe Steele. I don't think he's here today, but he actually got a half-ride scholarship offer for his performance in Rocket League. He's currently ranked, I believe, in the top 2,000 players in Rocket League, which has an average player pool of about 10 million players a month.
he's very good.
He's very good. He's a very talented player, and now it's paying for half of his college.
And a lot of our kids like that are either very, very good and they got interested, or hey, I like video games. And a lot of them also have come from other sports where they just felt that either one, they didn't make the cut, or two, they didn't fit in.
Yeah.
So we half jokingly called them at first our island of misfit toys, and they loved it because all of them came from some spot saying like, oh, I didn't feel like I actually, I don't know, was 100% in it, or I didn't feel completely included in it. And our group, I mean, we brought all of them down to San Diego and brought all of them back, and they were the easiest group I've ever done.
It was incredible.
yeah.
That's a very good point. As someone who grew up playing tennis for Argonaut, I was very thankful to have sports, but usually after my tennis matches and tennis practices, I went home and played video games, and that's really what I wanted to enjoy, and that's what I wanted to spend my time doing, but I still wanted to be involved in sports and have a community. Esports has let us create that opportunity that we wish we had as kids. I mean, to say that we have almost 30 kids out of the 400 and some odd kids at Argonaut is a pretty impressive number for year two, I feel. And we've only seen positive growth come out of this.
Yep.
I've already got Jackson Jr. asking me to help set it up for the junior high.
Yep.
I mean, there's massive potential with kind of tying back into Gabe Steele for a second. The Rocket League team this past season for spring in 22 actually placed in the top 10 in California out of the 93 teams that they were playing against. So that covers California, Oregon, just Pacific region.
Yep.
So the other advantage of esports over just traditional sports is, you know, we're not playing in a division. We are playing, most of the schools that we end up playing are LA County.
Yep.
Massive schools, private schools with tons of money, and we're competing at a high level.
And beat them.
And
Can I
beat
just
them,
flex
yes,
for a little?
yes.
And we beat them,
Yes.
so that was very
consistently.
nice. Yeah.
We're very proud of our players.
Yeah.
This has been a great opportunity to show them what's out there, because, you know, coming from a small county, born and raised here, it's difficult to get internet sometimes, and it feels like when you don't have internet, you can't play games. And to have access to King's Lab and be a space where they can use a computer if they don't have a computer at home, and they have high-speed internet where they can play against other players and improve themselves and see day in and day out the effort that they're putting in. Positive feedback from them is just incredible.
Just like any other sport. You don't have
Yeah.
access to all of that, but having it provided and backed by the school district shows and means a lot to them. We talk every single time when we meet, we talk about etiquette because we're labeled as a non-traditional sport, even though we're fighting that. So it's not just a gaming club, and we tell them, we hold them to the same standards. You have to make grades. You have to treat this like a traditional sport. And all of our kids know that. In fact, every kid who got cut from DreamHack because of grades, after we had to sit down with them, all flipped and all improved their grades and all made it. And so I thought that was really good.
Yeah, statistically speaking, the companies that we go through to actually run our seasonal leagues say that most of the time, once esports is implemented into high school, you see a 10% improvement in any of the participants in their GPA average. And I feel like that has been pretty consistent across the board, or at least the desire is there enough to where they want to improve it. I want to thank, before I forget while I'm thinking about it, I want to thank King for letting us use his lab,
Yes.
Matt King. I want to thank Andrew Gardner and CTE Funding.
Yes.
They have graciously spent a good chunk of money on us to fund the lab and to fund the trip to DreamHack. I want to thank all the chaperones that came along.
Yeah.
Made the trip so much easier. Especially Brandy, the bus driver, for driving 24 hours in
She's
5
fast.
days. She's incredible. I want to thank all the kids for coming out and supporting it. And
Want to have a talk?
yeah, I've got a couple here that want to talk and say a couple things about it. And thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to present this to you. If there's any questions, or if anybody in the audience wants to come play esports next year, we run year round. We run 2 seasons, which is another advantage. Is you can play a traditional sport in one season and play ours the next. So
That was my question. What are your seasons? I mean, you have football season, basketball season. It's like first semester, second semester?
we run.
First semester and second semester, yeah. Spring and winter. We also technically have a summer league if we wanted to dip into that. And that's just from one of our orgs. Next year, we're going to also sign up with the CIF org.
Yeah, CIF has been partnered with one of the organizations that we've been going through for the past 2 years. But as of like the middle of this year, they decided to branch off and make their own. So I kind of let them have their inaugural season to work out the kinks, and it was a very good thing because there were a lot of kinks in that system. So this next year we'll be partnering completely with CIF to, CIF is recognizing Rocket League, League of Legends, and Smash Brothers as official sports, official sanctioned sports.
Yep.
So we'll be partnering up with them again this coming season.
Yeah.
Is
Excited.
If you have any plans on making a school board league, let me know.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, our room is open if you want to come get just destroyed by some of our kids. They're very, very good. All right, go for it. Introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Asher Epperson. Going to DreamHack was really cool because we were able to see not just like what the players were doing, how they were playing, like what they were using in their gameplay, but also we got to see the creator side of things. So we got to see like where the like content creators came from, like how they got there. We were able to talk to them and like ask them, so how did you start this? Or how did you get here? Like what were you doing? Or to the pro players, which we were also able to talk to, were just like, hey, so how can I improve myself? And it really opened up a door to show you like what you can improve on and how you can improve. And then we were also like introduced to a bunch of like people who were like the people who like were from different genres of things. Like it wasn't just video game stuff. There was also like different card games where the creators of them, or TV shows, Pokemon is included, there was like the singer of the original song was also there, and you got to meet them and you got to talk to them and stuff. And then there were announcers where like you could ask them like, hey, so how did you get into this? If there's no like training or if there's nothing that you can do, you're just born with a voice, that how did you get heard and shown where you were? So.
Okay, my name is Elijah Hovey. I was also on the trip to DreamHack. In the Rocket League Stadium area, the main attention was focused all on the main players and the big screens, but there were also this like little stage in the corner that had the announcers on it. There were 4 different guys, and they were announcing like everything that was happening in the game and running back and forth between the people and like making all the call outs. So they like knew the game, but you also got to see that side of things and how there are actually people behind it doing it. And they didn't mention this, but there were like 5 or 6 different cameras like going around all over. There were like 4 people on stage with the gamers, like moving around with cameras up right next to them. But then like outside, there were these big cranes that had cameras on the top of them so that they could get long distance and like see in on people. And so you really got to see like all of the different things that you could do with the sports. And it's like people need the announcers, they need the cameramen, they need the tech people, they need the producers, and then they need the gamers. So there's just so many different pathways that you could actually take in esports.
Thank you again.
Anything else?
Appreciate it, yeah. Yeah,
We're like very proud.
yes, we're very proud of their behaviors throughout the whole thing. And,
Yeah.
Again, thank you on a personal level. Like I said, I've been following esports for about 10 years. I never felt a connection to most traditional sports. I have a favorite esports organization, and I have my favorite players, and to be able to share this passion that I have with the kids and see the same excitement in them and help the industry grow. I've said for probably the past 5 years that even if I never make it as a professional player, I want to help esports grow.
Yeah.
And you guys have given me that opportunity, so thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Anything else?
So thank you for taking the time to tell us about the conference. And when we saw the expense, we were definitely interested in knowing what we
Yeah.
were funding.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
I learned a lot. I mean, obviously, it's not just that they're getting together to play video games. They're exploring some career paths. I mean, obviously, it's not for every single one of them.
Sure, yeah.
The student who got the half scholarship, what college is that?
I don't know the college off the top of my head. I think it was back
I
in
don't remember.
Alabama, I think is where he said it was.
Yeah, it's somewhere on the East Coast.
I don't remember. Yeah, it was somewhere back east. But
I
yeah,
will-
he said he was.
we'll get the name in.
Yeah, I'll get the name for you. And I think he said it was for $14,000 a
14
year.
grand.
Wow, that is significant.
And
So
from-
Yeah.
congratulations to him.
To put emphasis on how much this has even grown, I graduated, oh gosh, 8 years ago? 8 years ago? Something like that. A while ago.
Chill, man.
And a while ago in esports. I personally had gotten 2 full ride scholarship offers and 3 half rides, just in my time pursuing esports. The high school to collegiate path is being paved as we speak in America. There is a fantastic, fantastic opportunity for growth, and I would love to spearhead that. Like I said, most of the schools that we end up playing are LA schools with either massive amounts of kids, so they have tons of funding, or they're private schools and they have tons of funding. The ability to have this and have top of the end hardware and a center for the kids to use is an amazing opportunity.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, thank
Like I
you.
said, I could talk about it for hours, so I will walk away now.
We definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hunkins, are you here and did you want to make comments? No, okay. Amy Martz, our CSEA Association.
You guys always make me follow these tough acts, I'm telling you. Thank you so much for letting me come up and talk about my chapter 239 of our CSEA union. And it's always a pleasure to see everybody here in the cabinet. And I have some exciting news. We finally have a new labor rep that's going to be our permanent labor rep, as our previous one, Kyle Harvey, has retired. So Sean Smith will be joining us, and I look forward to bringing him around to introduce you to him. And I met him last week, and I think he's going to be a good fit. So I'm really excited about that. May 23rd through the 27th is CSEW week, and I want to invite you all to come to our May 23rd chapter meeting. Don't have all the plans yet, have some ideas in the works, and I will be sending out invitations, so keep that on your calendar. Negotiations have been going really well. We continue to make really good positive progress in our meetings, so I'm very happy about that. Mostly, I wanted to talk about our educator conference that we just attended. Oh, there we are. So there was a total of 7 of us that went, and there was 4 from 239. And if you look really closely, you'll see the person in the back kind of photobombing us. That is one of the staff members who made the experience so enjoyable. They kept the facilities clean. They treated us like royalty, really. And I kept saying, we got to get a picture, we got to get a picture. So the very last day, we finally got our picture taken. So we look a little tired, but we had a great time. So do you want me to show you who's in the picture? Okay, so starting on the left, we have Megan Matheson, who is the president of 827. We have Jamie Hatton, who is the vice president of 827. Stephanie Ellis, who is an instructional aide for 239. Mitch Knapp, who is a M3 for 239. And then Carrie Marama, who is instructional aide for 239. And then Andrea Cruz, who's an instructional aide for 827, and then myself. So we really had a fantastic time. We brought back lots of good tools that will help us do our jobs better with a new excitement. I wanted to have my members come, but a couple of them had to work and weren't able to be here. But Carrie Marama wanted me to express her thanks for the opportunity to grow and learn and so many new things that she couldn't decide on one thing to talk about because all of what she learned was important. She looks forward to the opportunity to use the experience that she's learned for many, many years. And I did actually bring back information on one of my favorite classes, which was the verbal judo. And I was really looking forward to it, and it did not disappoint. And I'm going to give this to you so that you can take a look at it, because I think something that our district might want to look into to offer it as a class for all of the staff of Amador County. So with that, thank you very much, and I am so thankful to be here.
Thank you, Amy. I do have 2 comment cards here, but they are for items on the agenda, so they won't, they'll come in a little bit here. I don't have.
It'll be the very next item.
Yeah, so, number 11, we officially don't have any items. Number 12 is the consent agenda. That is what we have public comment on. First, I have Mr. Luke McElfish. And then following Mr. McElfish, I have Peyton Clark. And that's all we have.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, school district staff, school reps, thank you, good evening. My name is Luke McElfish. I've been an Amador County resident for 18 years, first in Sutter Creek and the lion's share of that, living in the city of Jackson. I'm a public servant for all that time. Coach, I have 3 sons. I wish to talk to you tonight about this pending decision on the consolidated principal. I have a grandmother who's 101 years old. You can imagine the kind of wisdom that she has gathered in all that time. And she can sum up life principles in quick sayings. One of those that she always taught me is that if in doubt, the answer is no, for now, until you know for sure, if in doubt. And that's what I want to express to you tonight about this decision. I want to express how I feel. Generally, I don't like where this is going, and I don't like how this is going. The announcement of Mark Brewer recently instantly created curiosity in me as to why. Why the change, why the apparent urgency in deciding. And then I find out today, why were students willing to walk out today in support of Troy Gassaway, who I will express is my choice for principal? My personal perspective on doubt, recently, as I know one of you is intimately aware, there was a process that took place with the Amador High School varsity football team regarding a debacle, and it quickly, in my opinion, got out of control. It was how that process was handled, and that's not to discredit anybody or anybody's participation. I know in a lot of circumstances the school board is caught between a rock and a hard place. And a lot of that being misinformation or lack of information, or I dare say being under the guise or excuse of confidentiality. Either way, the end result was that at least 2 coaches were vilified undeservedly in this process. They're still highly admired in this county, but that is the end result, no matter what anybody's opinion is on that. It's because of that personal experience that I have doubt as to what's going on right now. Nobody knows this man, and I'm not trying to minimize his credentials, but just because he may look the best on paper doesn't mean he's the best choice for our county. I don't understand the urgency or the need to make this decision now with such little announcement or information sharing with our community. But just in closing, if a decision is to be made, that decision should be Troy Gassaway. That is the obvious choice. I want to express to you that the level of doubt is serious and high enough that it should create doubt in making a decision in favor of this pending outsider. And again, that's not to minimize who he is or what he's done in his life, but Troy Gassaway has been with us through thick and thin, through victories, through hard times, through COVID, and he has shined through it all. And I'm proud to say that as a result, my son is a state champion, playing D3 football, and has, I heard numbers, he earned himself $20,000 in academic scholarships under the leadership of Troy Gassaway and those he surrounds himself with. The choice is obvious. If that decision has to be made tonight, it's Troy Gassaway. Thank you.
All right. Good evening. My name is Peyton Clark, and I am a senior graduating this year at Argonaut High School. In my 4 years, I have never seen a family quite like the Mustang family. We have proven time and time again that we are resilient, ambitious, and brilliant students and athletes. Our hearts are filled to the brim with love and spirit for our school. We are who we are because of our leader on campus and our principal, Mr. Gassaway. He is the keeper of the Mustang family. He is steadfast and holds his ground for all on the Argonaut campus. He is an inspiration to all the students to become the best people that they can be. He is a guiding hand for the graduating seniors like myself, allowing us to feel confident and fully equipped to enter college or the workforce with our heads held high. When our Mustang family has felt heartbreak or loss, Gassaway felt the pain alongside us. His love for this family and spirit for our school cannot and will not ever be broken. You cannot expect his absence to go unnoticed, nor his presence upon campus not be felt by the hundreds of students through the years that have had the pleasure to know him. He possesses a mutual respect for all students. That is a trait that you will never find in someone who is not from Amador County. You cannot replicate his diligence, his commitment, nor his sacrifices. And we students know this. Over 160 members of the Mustang family have already voiced their concerns, and that number continues to grow as more students realize that what they need for our campus and what they want the legacy of the Argonaut High School to be doesn't seem to matter to some members. We are the ones who attend campus every day, and we are the ones who must abide by the rules enforced by the district regardless if we agree. We are the ones who want to have a principal that has our backs, who will look out for our well-beings, and who will represent our family to the board. We do not want to bring in a new principal that won't see the value of the downtown rally or the Battle of the Bell. A new principal will not understand how we function at Argonaut. Our AP pass rates and future scholars are all taught and exceeded by teachers handpicked by Gassaway. and every teacher is deeply beloved by all students. Our section and state wins for sports like football, basketball, golf, and tennis, to name a few, were only possible due to Gasaway's dedication to our sport program, knowing how much athletics means to many of us. Our clubs and campus traditions are always supported by Gasaway, who will occasionally crash meetings to observe the causes that students are deeply passionate about, and allow him to gain a deeper understanding of what his students are in need of. True, the consolidation of the schools may prove to bring the community together and allow for more opportunities for the future students of Amador County, but we cannot allow you to let go one of the only people in our education district who has put his students above himself, and for someone else from who knows where that cannot properly lead the Mustangs. How can you decide a major choice for the students when none of us students agree? We are taught to stand up for what's right, to advocate against forces that try to diminish our rights, and voice our concerns when we know we have the best. And Gasaway is undeniably the very best principal, mentor, and supporter of all the Mustangs, past, present, and future. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments on on other items in the consent agenda?
Questions or comments regarding the consent agenda?
Correct.
I'd
yes.
like to pull the, what is it, item 6 of the consent agenda for further discussion. Is it 6? Yes?
Yes.
12.6.
12.6 for further discussion.
Are you making a motion?
Yes.
So James has made a motion to pull item 12.6. Is there a second?
There doesn't have to be a.
That doesn't, yeah.
Oh,
It's a matter of if you can do this a couple ways. So we can just talk about item 12.6 and then somebody make a motion to approve the consent agenda. We could pull 12.6. You can make a motion, a second, to approve everything but 12.6. And then we vote on 12.6 separately. There's lots of different ways we can do it. It just depends on, well, how the board wants to.
I just want to pull 12.6 to have further discussion for the sake of transparency, community concern, et cetera.
did you not want to discuss it now?
That's
Yeah,
why I'm
okay.
requesting to pull item 6.
So I don't think you necessarily need to pull it, but we can if you want to, do you want to vote on all of consent first, other than 12.6?
If that's, whatever the process is to discuss item 12.6,
We can
do that.
proceed to discuss right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, either way, it's fine.
That,
okay.
Yeah.
did you have a question or?
Sure. I have a bunch of them. There's questions that people have sent me, community members, some questions that I've had myself, only because I don't understand much. But this process was one of them. Is it okay if I read some of these questions, or all of them?
If you're wanting a response to each of them, I think we just go one by one and we respond.
And I know I won't get a response for some of them based on confidentiality or law or whatever the case may be. And if any of these questions fall under that category, can you say?
Yeah, sure, that's no problem.
One of the questions is, and they're not in any particular order, they're not any of that, they're just thrown at me, so I'm trying to go. One of them is, why was an athletic director or a consolidated athletic director chosen before the consolidated principal?
So that's a great question. So the athletic director actually reports to human resources because it's not just for the high school. So the consolidated athletic director is for grades 5 through 12, not just at the high school. So the two jobs aren't connected like they traditionally are when you have an athletic director on a school campus with the high school principal.
Okay,
Because often the athletic director at a high school will also be a teacher at the high school, so they do report to the principal. In this situation, the athletic director reports directly to human resources.
okay, so that actually probably will answer a couple other questions.
Okay.
But I'm still gonna ask them.
Yeah, sure.
So just for clarity, Mr. Hunkins, who everybody knows is the consolidated athletic director, correct?
Correct.
Will fall under Mrs. DeWalt,
Correct.
in the chain of command situation.
Correct. He reports directly to her.
Okay, not the site's principal.
Correct.
Okay. One of the other questions is, in interviews such as this, is it standard practice to include board members?
That's a great question. So yes and no. In the past, we have had board members participate. As a board, recently, we decided to not continue with that practice. It's actually not good sound practice, as we discussed at our last board workshop. And so as the board, the 5 of you opted, well, I think Shane was still kind of feeling things out, but the other 4 of you had opted that board members would no longer sit on hiring panels, as that is not the purpose of the board.
Okay, so it went from what we used to do to that day. When was it? A couple weeks ago or a couple months ago, maybe?
What was that meeting? February, I think it was.
So February,
And I think that's a question for the board, because that was a board decision, that wasn't a me decision. So I think your colleagues need to probably speak to that. That had nothing to do with me, that had everything to do with the 5 of you deciding what we were gonna do.
We had extensive discussion on that. It was a public meeting, even though we were having a workshop, as you know, governance workshop. It is a practice that we had discussed because we are the last adjudicating body when there is a dismissal hearing. So any employee of the district who their dismissal escalates past the Skelly hearing and then to the dismissal hearing, we vote. We hear that evidence, we make the decision, we cast the vote. So if we have participated in the hiring of that person, now you have a potential conflict of interest. You may have influence on that hiring, on that employee, and now you may have additional influence on their dismissal. So in order to remain neutral as that what is the word I'm looking for? As that board, in doing that duty, it would be best practice to remove ourselves from the hiring decisions, from the hiring input, so that we can be no perception of conflict of interest.
We've also had other administrative positions this year since then, prior to this particular situation, where because of the direction from the board, that's the way we went as well. And those positions have all been already approved in past board meetings.
And James, that meeting was on the 21st of February when we had our board workshop.
Yeah, I think we've hired 3, if I remember correctly, since then, separate from the consolidated principal. I think we have 3 other prior to this.
One was the athletic director.
One was the athletic director, one was the assistant soup of SELPA and SPED, and the third one was student success director. Oh. Yeah,
Wasn't the assistant athletic director also hired?
the assistant athletic
Is
director.
that the title?
I think we have I think you mean admin assistants?
This, like a admin assistant, like a secretary position?
Yeah, would that be the
so-
position that you hired?
Yeah, that's been hired just recently in the last, when you guys, a couple weeks?
Well, I think there's one on the.
It's on here. Okay, there you go. Yeah. But that's not something a board member would sit on anyways. In the past, the only items that board members prior to sat on were administrative. And not all administrative either. It's pretty much mostly the higher level.
Administrative positions?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Can I add, James, that I brought that up at that workshop, and we couldn't have more than 2 board members at a meeting, which was instrumental in the board saying, okay, we can't do this.
Yeah, I remember that. Right. So in the past, there would be 2 board members on a hiring panel.
Up to 2.
Usually it
Up
was
to
one.
2.
It was one. I don't think we ever had 2 that I was aware of.
I don't remember.
It's rare, yeah.
Okay.
Just one usually.
Okay, and then a question, which I think was answered with this, but was there a board member present during the panel?
No.
Right. And then the other question is, was Mr. Gasaway the first choice for the panel?
Unfortunately, legally, I can't even respond to if Mr. Gasko even applied, unfortunately.
Okay,
That's a legal binding issue.
okay. Was every candidate asked all of the exact same questions?
Yes. Except for in the cabinet round, that's different because it's open-ended. The panels that come together midday, they'll give us the things that they want cabinet to ask. But otherwise, yes, by law, we have to ask the exact same questions. We have all of that documentation because we legally have to keep it.
Do those questions have to be like asked verbatim?
Yes.
Candidate?
Yes, and everybody has notes that we take, and all of those documents are collected and kept.
I appreciate your guys' patience. My next question is, what was the process of choosing this interview panel?
Great question. So we had 35 people plus cabinet, so there's 5 cabinet members. But the 35 people comprised the 2 panels, interpersonal as well as technical. We reached out to each bargaining unit, president and their team, and said we would like X number of people from each school site, from each high school site specifically was our key. I think we had 3 teachers from each site. I have to go back and look at our notes. I think it was 3 teachers, a counselor from each site, multiple classified employees. We had an elementary principal, 2 vice principals, a junior high principal, classified directors, certificated directors, community member, and then our 2 student board members participated. So the bargaining units chose, we just gave them the titles and what we call the classifications, and then the bargaining units chose
What is
who,
a bargaining unit?
our union group. So we have 4 unions, so each union had so many positions that they chose from. And we just said, these are the classifications, so teacher, counselor, for classified specifically, like, I know when we talked to Amy, it was, we really wanted to make sure that we had somebody from each school site to represent, so both school sites were equally represented.
So the union presidents chose who they wanted?
Or they worked with their team to
Or
choose.
who, okay,
I don't know how they'd each
Yeah,
individually
whatever.
have to tell you how they chose, but yes, they work with their team to choose those people.
whatever process the unions chose to pick the people for this panel, that's what they did.
Yeah, and that's what we do for every interview.
Okay.
Yeah, that's completely normal process.
You said there was 35 people, and then you said it was 2 categories. Was it 35 each category, 70 total?
Half and half.
Okay,
Yep, so we split everybody up half and half. We come back together at the end of the day. And then based on that, we do rankings for each person. We have in-depth conversation. I want to say we deliberated for 2.5 hours at least through the process. We went through an elimination process, and student board members, you guys can chime in too, because you guys were there. We went through an elimination process. We had 10 candidates who applied. We had 4 who were not qualified, so we paper screened them out. We interviewed the other 6. They were all excellent candidates. They all had extensive high school principal experience. So we interviewed all 6. In the first round, we eliminated 2. There were 2 obvious choices just based on the rankings and the data. All 35 people in the room agreed, who were discussing it, agreed to eliminate 2. Then we talked about the 4 that were left. They opted to eliminate 1. We had 3 left. They re-ranked them again. And then I think we talked for another 45 minutes about those 3. And the group as a whole ranked them 1, 2, 3 for cabinet. They sent those 3 to cabinet. And then from there, cabinet takes on the process from that point.
how, I don't know how to ask this, how were the 2 groups split up? Based on like male, female, blonde, brunette?
Good question. So it's an interpersonal and technical panel. So the technical panel is going to be made up of people who work intrinsically in the high school system on a regular basis. So people who understand master scheduling, maybe they understand discipline because they do it all day, those types of things. The interpersonal side are going to be just general questions about how do you lead groups and teams of people? How do you, interact with an upset parent, like some of those things that are a little bit more basic and just human nature fundamental. And so we divided people up based on that. And anybody who wanted to flip, in fact, I think we had a couple people switch spots not midday, but before we even got started, because one was in a boot and couldn't get down the stairs, and there's just logistical things that, so it doesn't, I mean, they could have stayed where they were, but we did have a couple people who moved around.
Were the questions, this just popped into my head, nobody asked me this, but were the questions on both groups the same, or were they subject-oriented? Did I ask that right? Group-oriented.
So so one is our technical questions and one are interpersonal questions.
Okay.
So total, I want to say each candidate answered 17-ish questions, 17 or 18 questions. That's about right, guys. I'm watching them shake their head behind you, so they're giving me the cues. 17 or 18 questions that were all the identical same questions. By the time they left the building, each person had answered the exact same 17 or 18 questions verbatim.
Okay. That was answered. Sorry, I gotta switch to the other
No problem,
questions.
you're okay.
My bad.
You're fine.
And you had answered who the the new AD reports to. And is there any particular reason, or what would be the reason as to why an athletic director was hired before principal? I'm going to assume it's because of what you just explained, that that person is now under HR in the district level rather than site level. Is that correct?
Yeah, the other thing was that that position was posted sooner. We had the job description done first, so we went ahead and posted it. The principal position, we posted a little bit later. We did have some qualified candidates, both inside and outside. And as we know, it's hiring season, so it was a matter of picking that sweet spot of time frame. I think, Jenny, what did we, Mrs. DeWalt, we posted those, I think we posted the AD position for 3.5 weeks or 4 weeks. I think the principal position, I think we posted for 4 or 5 weeks, right? Something along that line. And some of it had to do with the EdCal. We had some mishaps with EdCal where it didn't get in and get posted, where EdCal is an administrative magazine or newspaper that shows up in our mailbox. And this time of the year, it has 4 or 5 pages of all the jobs that are open across the state. And so as administrators, we watch for that. Well, one of the issues that we had is EdCal missed it and didn't get one of them on there. So we're just trying to follow those timelines, which happens all the time. That's pretty standard processes.
Okay. And what is the wage range of the consolidated principal?
I'd have to look on it. It was approved at the 2 board meetings ago, I believe.
I'm not necessarily asking for the salary, but public info, what wage range what the position is?
I think it's like 120, are you wanting the actual dollars? I think it's like 122 to 145,
Okay,
something along that line
yeah.
is
And-
what it's posted online. And on all that is currently on our website.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is the process for how the staff is going to be chosen for the consolidated high school?
All staff will be chosen for the consolidated high school. I think that's the misconception for people is the number of our kids don't change. So teachers go with students. So we are, as we have said many times before, we don't anticipate doing any layoffs. We're gonna have natural attrition that happens. If you currently are in the district and you're an administrator and you're still an administrator in August of 2025, you'll still be an administrator in ACUSD or ACOE, wherever you sit. It just might look different. And we have 2 years, and a lot of things happen between now and then. I mean, last year we hired 7 new administrators. So it just depends, but teachers, classified staff, we still have to have all of the people that are currently working within our system.
And the reason I bring up the process is, I mean, there's a huge fear amongst high school staffs, plural, currently, and a lot of input from the community about top-down decisions happening. Is that going to be practiced with this process?
Well, teachers go into positions based on their credentials.
Right.
So, for instance, I couldn't say, oh, James, I want you now to go be a math teacher, but you have an English credential. That can't happen.
Yeah.
So where everybody sits now and what they're credentialed for is what they are legally obligated to teach and be assigned. That master schedule is created by a principal. I have nothing to do with that. So I don't know what top-down, none of these decisions and none of our hiring practices are top-down.
Okay.
And James, if I might interject, it's not only by credential, but it's also by their seniority in the district. Obviously, the longest employees are going to get first choice, provided, of course, they meet the criteria of the job, like an
No.
English teacher or math teacher.
That's not actually accurate either.
Okay.
No, it's based on student need.
Student need.
Yeah, it all has to be student-driven. Everything we do, master schedule has to be student-driven. Where teachers are placed are credential-based and student-driven. And so when they do the master scheduling, and Mr. Critchfield has been working with both sites right now as we're going through a new process for master scheduling, where it's all now online, and you can instantly go in and you can see where, what we call conflicts. So when you have a singleton, so it's one class offered the entire time on that high school, and that is it. You'll have kids, and these two will start nodding their heads for us, because sometimes they have to make choices. Because if two classes that they want to take are at the same period because they're both singletons, then the counselors and the principal have to decide, and their team have to decide, what's the least conflict of having that class during that period? Are they the same groups of kids? As an example, AP classes are always a huge issue, because if you have more than 8 AP classes, kids are going to have to sometimes make choices. And so that's a process that's completely done by the school site, and the principals, and it has nothing to do with me whatsoever.
But what I'm saying is about the, not necessarily the individual classes, but the position as an English teacher. If you're teaching high school as an English teacher now, and there's another teacher teaching high school as an English teacher now who's just started, the one that's been here for 10 years may have more, they have a place in the school more. You know, you can't get bumped for seniority.
No, but we're not planning to bump anybody anyways.
But
Yeah.
that's what I was trying to get to.
That's more of a layoff issue.
Yeah.
If we ever did massive layoffs, we're never gonna, we don't need to do layoffs. We need every teacher. I don't even know how many teaching jobs we have right now, but I know we have a ton of them posted.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Finding teachers are not the easiest thing to do these days. It's not like it used to be 10, 15 years ago, even 8 years ago, when, you know, we'd, just in general, across the state, across the country, it is extremely difficult to find qualified teachers. So we are always hiring. Every single year, we're hiring tons of teachers. I think last year we hired 40 or 50 new teachers. Yeah. So, and some of that just has to do with retirement too.
What does that mean? Meaning they,
People retire,
yeah,
yeah.
okay,
Like
Julia.
Julia, who's retiring after this year.
right.
And so we'll need to fill that position, and so we'll hire more staff. So it's just kind of that natural attrition that happens. Julia
Got a challenge.
Anderson, she got it, yeah. It's okay. We're gonna do that later. We're gonna do that in May. Go ahead, James.
This one may be gaspy.
It's okay.
Said that. But there are many people that feel like this process and time in the district feels like a past superintendent's way of doing things. When micromanagement was running rampant, staff was in constant fear. Top-down decisions were the norm, and retaliation was happening to anyone who spoke up or tried to stick up for themselves. I feel the reason most of these questions were sent to me is because of that comment right there. That's gaspy. I feel weird even saying it, but it's just the truth of many people. So,
I really don't know how you want me to respond. I mean, I don't believe, I mean, I could ask cabinet to respond. I don't want them to feel like they have to. I am the least top-down person. I don't micromanage. In fact, when I have to micromanage, it's not pretty because I don't have time and I don't enjoy doing it. It's not my style. It's never been my style. And I think there are many staff who would probably speak up and voice something extremely different than what you just stated. That's just my opinion based on the interactions I have with staff on a daily basis. I know that Dr. Slavinsky did some great work here. I know there were also some challenges, and I think in this seat, that happens for anybody. Every day, every moment, 24/7, I make decisions that I have to make. The board hires the superintendent specifically to hire staff, and that is what I'm doing. The board gave me a direction and gave cabinet a direction to work towards consolidating our schools to better our programs for our kids, and that's what we're doing. We went through a thorough process, and it's the exact same process that has been in this district since prior to me getting here. In fact, I inherited this process. This wasn't something that I created. This was something that Dr. Slavinsky created that we felt as a cabinet was very effective, having the two panels, having the unions choose who's on the panels, those types of things. Cabinet didn't even participate in any process, any conversation. We sat completely silent during the entire time of the rankings up until we got into cabinet. And I can openly say this, that coming out of the panel, Mr. Brewer was number one by far, ahead of any other candidate. And after cabinet interviewed him and the other two, we felt like it was our duty to follow suit behind the 35 people who spent their entire day in that room agonizing over this decision. And I don't know if there's anybody else who was in that room, if you want to speak to that at all, for what you can say, but I think that's a really important part of this, that we didn't go against anything different than what the panel chose.
Could I chime in? Yeah, I would say the exact same thing, and just kind of something that I wanted to put out there, because I felt like that last question was kind of not a question, more of a statement, and I felt like Dr. Gibson, from what I've seen, you've been doing a phenomenal job, and I want to let you know that. I feel like, personally, that's just my personal opinion, and I've seen you take us through hard times, and you know, you're put in that position to make those decisions, so you know, I rally behind you, and I'm sure most of the school district does as well. And another point there, I was in the interviews for a long time, all day, and I felt that as if we were kind of going between number 2 and 3 the whole time. Mr. Brewer was number 1 for both the technical and the interpersonal panel, and it seemed like a clear choice, but we had to send a few into cabinet, so it felt like we were just trying to figure out the second place a little bit. Mr. Brewer, I felt one of the comments I guess I made and I'll make again is I felt like if he was my principal, if he wasn't my principal, I would die to make him my principal. He was phenomenal. Not to say that all the other 5 in there were not. They were impressed me beyond compare. Mr. Gasaway was he was my second pick. He was above some other people that were just phenomenal. I can't speak to who else was in there because I'm not quite sure what legally I can say. But I would say that from what I've heard, Mr. Gasaway, I have met him a few times, and from what I've seen from him, he is like phenomenal. I respect that man so much. I could see him as my principal, but I would say that after we spent so many hours deliberating on this, we had, it wasn't a top-down decision. She brought all the people in the county together to, 40 different people. It shouldn't have been 100 or whatever, but 40 people is a lot from around the county to do that, and I felt like it was a decision. When we put the top 3 people to cabinet, Dr. Gibson asked, and she goes, I need to make a decision here. Is everyone fine if we pick someone from these top 3 candidates? And if we pick, you're not number 1 choice, are you fine with it? And everyone said yes. And we went through, and it just seems kind of like those people in there represented all over the county, Argonaut High School, Amador High School, some of my teachers, some of the teachers that I have at Argonaut High School as well. So it just felt like now that we have repercussions from it, we just said that we're fine with whoever it is, and he was our number 1 pick anyway. So I have full confidence in it because I have full confidence in him after I met him. I have full confidence in the cabinet because I've worked with them for 2 years now. So that's all I have to say on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Preston.
My last question is just regarding the process again. Is it common for, how do you say it, current hiring within is far more, I don't want to label it, but maybe.
Desired?
Say it again?
Desired?
Desired?
Like hiring internal?
Yeah, internal
No,
hiring.
I'm gonna always say that we're gonna hire the best candidate, whether it's in or out, whoever presents himself as the best candidate. Sometimes it's inside, sometimes it's not. But we are always, I mean, last year we had a situation, yes, we hired inside. This year we had a situation with the parallel position that we hired outside. It just depends on the candidates, and it depends on the candidates that apply for the position. But we must always hire the best possible candidate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate your patience.
No, I think those
And the
were
board's
great questions.
Thanks.
Really great questions. Yeah, go ahead.
I want the person that's going to do best for the county, best for the students, whether they're Amador students, whether they're Argonaut students, whether they're students that live in Ione or students that live up in Pioneer. I want the best person for that. I have concerns about somebody coming in from out of the area, not knowing the area, but I also have thoughts on somebody coming in from out of the area. If they listen to the community when they're in that position and learn from it and grow to make their decisions, they won't have any internal biases, you know? And so that's just where I'm at. So.
Shane or Kayla, did you guys have any questions or comments you wanted to follow up?
I guess just a comment that, I feel that it's important that whoever this person that's brought in as the new superintendent, as the new consolidated principal, we already
I
have
was like, all right, see you
superintendent.
guys. Have fun with this.
That they take into consideration all students, whether it's the athletic students, non-athletic students, the esports students, special ed students, the students that are struggling, are they going to be there for them? So I think it's really important that we have someone that's going to consider all the students to make things better for everyone.
Yeah, this has definitely been a big thing for the last couple of days. I've gotten a large number of emails, calls, texts. My dad is getting phone calls for me regarding the principal position, both from Amador folks and Argonaut folks. What I'm hearing, though, the most is just concerns about somebody who doesn't have community ties, people who aren't tied to the students or either campus, and someone who doesn't necessarily just know Amador. I've lived here my entire life. I graduated from Amador. And I don't think that anybody can argue with the fact that Mr. Brewer seems to be exceptionally qualified. But I do feel that our community throughout this process should also have representation. And that's just kind of the way I feel. But what my real hope is that whichever way anything goes, is that all of the students, both Amador and Argonaut, are equally represented. Because let's not forget, people are moving to Argonaut's campus, but people from Amador are also leaving their campus, and that's a huge thing too. So I think that we really cannot lose sight of what this is actually all about. And that's where I'm at.
Are there any additional comments or questions, Mr. Marzano?
The only comments that I would say is very close to what Mr. Crow, Mr. Kayla, and Mr. Whitaker has said this far, that my concern in wanting to separate this from the consent agenda is solely have to do with what's best for our community and our kids, or our kids in our community, however you want to spin it. I've always said it, and I will continue to say it, that I really feel that The adults are what mess it up for the kids.
Always a
It's,
fun sucker.
yeah, it's what it is, always has been.
I'm just gonna say this, that I don't think that there's one person that sits up here or over here that, I mean, not one of us who isn't here for our kids, 100%. We are all here for our kids. We are here to create better programs. We are here to create schools that don't have leaky roofs, that, I mean, I could go on and on. You've all heard it. I don't need to beat that horse to death, but I don't think that there's anybody that sits here, though, that doesn't, I mean, we all agree that that's why we're all here, is for the kids, 100%. And sometimes these things aren't easy, and I completely acknowledge that change is really hard. And I just hope that the community, if the board approves Mr. Brewer's hire, will just, be open to him. There are people who currently sit in our administration who are loved, but they don't live here in our community. They never have and they never will. And they're still loved. They drive from Sacramento. They drive from all over. There's some of us who do live here in the community. There's some of us that, I mean, I could die here and be an outsider 45 years from now, and that's okay. I knew that coming to Amador, and that's okay. I still love it here, and I still love our kids. And our teachers and our staff are amazing. And that's why we're doing what we're doing right now. And I just know it's not easy. This is not a decision that we take lightly. It is not a Tory decision. This is a complete cabinet decision. And I think if there's any cabinet members that want to speak to that, feel free. If you don't want to, that's fine too. But this was not a decision. There are some decisions that, yes, I have to make. That's what the board hires me to do. And then there are some decisions, 99% that we make as a whole team, as a collective team, and we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly behind closed doors, and that's what we do. Because we are a team, and we are a united team, and we make that decision together every day.
I'll say something. I was principal at Amador High. I have a child at Argonaut. I'm a graduate of Argonaut. And so I've, through this process, tried to have a perspective of balancing the needs of both schools. And Jenny said it best the other day, and I think Tori already reiterated that. I think one of the challenges that everyone's going through with this change with consolidation is the location of the consolidated high school. We are not expanding Argonaut High School. Argonaut High School is closing and Amador High School is closing in 2 years. That's hard for a lot of people to hear, but that's what's happening, and we are opening a new high school. And so trying to balance the needs of the high school students in the entire county is a big weight on us in trying to make sure we get this right. I think we also have to consider the fact that we've set up this position in a way where we are not hiring someone from out of this county to run a high school that opens in August in a few months. It's opening in August of 2025. And that individual is going to have 2 years to build relationships with students and teachers and classified staff at both campuses, so that when those Amador staff members have to move to Argonaut High School, that they all feel like they're part of one high school staff. That's a huge job. I mean, I don't care who we put in charge of that. That is a massive job. And I remember going all the way back to 2012 when I sat on the reconfiguration committee, as it was called then, and went to every single meeting that entire year as a high school representative on how important it was even back then to make sure, because remember that committee recommended to consolidate into one high school 10 years ago, that many of those conversations happened back then. What do we do to make sure that the entire county's worth of kids and staff are well taken care of? And speaking as a cabinet member, I don't feel micromanaged at all. If anything, I probably need to be managed a little bit more. But I am free to operate as a cabinet member and speak freely and do whatever I think is necessary to help this district. And Tori and I disagree at times, and it's healthy. We get heated with each other at times, and it's healthy because we're both passionate about this. And I have zero fear of reprisals or anything like that. And I'm an at-will employee. So I hope that things that have happened in the past here, people will start to realize that things are different now, and that we're able to move forward in a way where people can just focus on their job, focus on taking care of our kids.
I appreciate you saying that, Mr. Critchfield, as I remember you as a principal at Amador. I have a kid that's gonna graduate from Amador. I had a kid that went to Amador. I have a kid that's at Argonaut. And I've been, I don't wanna say blackballed, but very much frowned from many folks from when I moved here back in 2013, saying that there should be one high school. So it's not an Amador Argonaut thing. It's where I come from with these questions, or why I've brought up or had the not fear. I can't think right now, but to say the word nicely, I had the courage to ask these questions. I'm asking them for the sake of what everybody has said here, that all kids, not a group of kids. I like the way Mr. Crow brought it, not just the athletes, it's the special ed kids, the esports kids, everybody. So I appreciate that that's been brought out, but the community had questions, and that's why I wanted to separate them. So I know I said that a few times.
I'd also, I don't know what more I can say than what Mr. Critchfield did, but I also don't feel micromanaged. We have a very collaborative process, and yeah, we do disagree, and we feel the freedom to be able to throw down with each other when we need to arrive at the best decision, and we do that. And also, just back to something Preston said as well, this wasn't a top-down decision. It was the same process we've used for all of our hiring. This was the largest panel we've ever composed, and, you know, we followed the wishes of that panel. And so, while, you know, it's difficult, it in no way, shape, or means was anything about this top-down, so.
I'll add my 2 cents. I will say I am a product of Amador County Unified School District. I started this school district as a very young kid before we consolidated, or before we unified. I lived unification as a child. I would have been a proponent of consolidation in 2012. I would have been a proponent of consolidation for many years because I see the benefit for kids. I would say that everything I do is through this lens of how do we provide the best educational opportunities for all kids with the least amount of effort on grown-ups' part, because if you burn out all the grown-ups, we're not doing what's best for kids. I would say that as, honestly, the newest cabinet member, I think a lot of times I think outside the box and I have ideas that aren't always what other people would think of first. And I have felt nothing but that my thought process has been valued as a cabinet member. And as an employee in this district, I haven't always felt that way. I have 100% had administrators where I felt like I had to hide my own thoughts and just try and run my school or my class and just try and not be part of the bigger mainstream, just to keep that safe. And I don't feel that in any way, shape, or form in this process this year. And I would say that from a personal standpoint, I think I've had opportunities prior to Tori Gibson coming as superintendent to take positions at the district office that I have turned down over and over again, because having the freedom to have a voice and make a difference is really important to me. And I've had moments in time in my career where I do not feel like I've had that freedom. So I do feel like that now, and I think it's really important. I also think that the value of the process of the interview panels is really important, and it's important to honor all the work and voices that were said and happened in that process, because it is a confidential process, and we can't go through and say, all 35 people, this is what each individual person said, this was each individual person's fears, this was what their desires were. What comes out of that whole process through this lens of confidentiality is in totality a voice that this is who was picked. And I think it's important to honor all of those people and their voices in that process. So, thank you.
I just want to give a quick example as Jenny was talking. So here's a perfect example of kind of how things work for us. So as cabinet, we had come up with this game plan for next year that involved a couple staff members in the high school, and we're trying to start we're attempting to do some bridging across the way. And we came up with what I would say the four of us thought was just a magical idea. And then a couple people called us and asked us questions and asked more questions, and then they asked to come and meet with us. So we scheduled them today to come to cabinet. And lo and behold, once we talked through it with these two people who were actually involved in this process, we determined that the idea the four of us had completely failed miserably. And we worked through that with these staff members, and we came up with a plan that I think is going to be far better and far more successful. So just because it's us, I mean, we have staff that come to us all the time with like, hey, did you think about this? We can't think of it all, but we have staff that have no problem calling me, emailing me, and saying, hey, we would like to come to cabinet and have this conversation with you. And I think that speaks volumes to the cabinet group that we have. And by the end of that hour-and-a-half meeting or whatever it was, we had completely flipped our whole entire plan based on this feedback that we had received. I don't think that that is staff that feel scared and worried about top-down. And I'm sad if there are people who feel that way, and I would definitely want that feedback and be able to work with those staff members if they do feel that way, because I don't ever want anyone to feel like anything is top-down.
I don't know, I can't answer for that person. However, I don't think it was cabinet that they were referring to in that question. I think it was like teachers, staff members. I'm not 100% sure. I was just reading with the way it was tagged to me.
No worries.
Yeah.
I totally get it.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Thanks for clarifying that. Maeve, did you want to say anything? I don't want to move on and you not have the opportunity.
No, yeah, sorry, I'll definitely speak.
You don't have to.
No, I'm good.
And I just want to remind that we can't really talk about who was interviewed or who wasn't interviewed other than Mr. Brewer, since everybody knows that he did interview.
Yeah. So I was also part of the interview process, and I feel like everything was completely fair. I was part of one of the panels, and we all asked the same questions to every candidate, and then once all the questions were asked and all the candidates had had their time to speak, we came together and we all came to, I guess, a couple different conclusions. Obviously, people were divided. Some people from that were representing one group of people felt differently than people that were representing another group of people, but that's totally necessary because all of these groups of people are part of this one big process. But I feel like Mr. Brewer was my number one choice as well. And exactly like Preston said, after he came through the interview panel, I was just kind of stunned and taken aback by how much I wanted him to be my principal. And Mr. Gassaway, as my principal now, has done an amazing job, and I don't want to discredit him for everything he's done for Argonaut High School, but for the position that this new consolidated high school will be filling, I thought that Mr. Brewer I felt that he was my top choice. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Meg. Mr. Marzano, I would like to thank you for asking all of your questions, because I am a firm believer that if one person has a question, there's probably multiple members of the community that have the same question and just haven't reached out. So I think it's important that the questions get asked and the answers are heard, and they're on the record. I think it's important that when we disagree, that is part of the record, that decisions are challenged, that you do not have a school board of yes men or yes women. You do not. You are represented by people who hear your concerns and they're going to follow up on them. That's what this is for. That's what this dais is for. There were some points made tonight. I know that I had no idea how the interview process went until I was elected as a school board member and I got invited to sit on it, on a panel. I was shocked at how collaborative it was, at how employees of this district in every department and every level are invited to participate, and they're invited to give feedback. Members of the community, parents of students are all part of that process. This was a exceptionally large panel with 35 members plus cabinet. I was not in any of those interviews. I've never met Mr. Brewer. I've met Mr. Gassaway a few times, and I can guarantee you I do not have the information to make any kind of hiring decision at this moment. I think that this hiring is linked to a lot of the emotional reactions that we have to consolidation. Nobody is a stranger to what I think about consolidation and how that happened. But the vote was had, and we are moving forward with the steps to make the policy that the board voted into reality. This is one of those steps. We are not going to agree on every single step along the way. We're not going to have consensus. When Mr. Critchfield mentioned that we are closing 2 high schools and opening a new one, I think that that might be the first time I've heard that phrase, and I think it really illustrates the ending and the beginning that we are planning for. When we were honoring our employees with the challenge coins, one of the comments that really sticks out is how Deanna Bell is a repository of history for her school site. And I think if you ask, every school site has that person. Every school site has that expert on, this is where we used to be, this is where we went. This is how we used to do it, but we don't do it that way anymore because we're doing it better. We're growing, we're learning. The history and the relationships that reside with all the people, with all the staff and the teachers on each school site, we're keeping that. We're not losing that. We're keeping the capital that we have in our greatest resource, which is the people. It's what we spend the most money on in this district. It's what has the most value in this district, is the people. We are a traditional community. We value, I think I have some relationships that are now part of my kids' DNA because they have so many generations on their dad's side. It doesn't matter. We need a facilitator, we need a mediator, we need someone who is a clean slate for a new school with a big team, with lots of important people who are going to bring all of the experience, the history, the relationships, and the love they have for all of our kids to one place. We are all going to one place. We're not going to all agree on how we get there, but we are going. Does anybody have any last comments on this 12.6?
I have one last comment. I received numerous emails, and I want everyone that sent me an email to know that I did read every email that I received, and please continue to email me if you have questions, and I will always take whatever's presented to me into consideration.
I agree with what Mr. Crow said. I too have received many emails, and please keep reaching out. We can't always reply to the emails because of the fact that some of the information is confidential and everything, but we do read them.
Yeah, I got, like I said earlier, I had a multitude of emails. If I did not, I tried to respond to every single email, and that was a lot of emails, but also my email address was listed wrong on the website a little bit, so if you sent me an email, I didn't respond, I may not have gotten your email, but.
Has that been fixed?
Guess what? I have a warrant question. So I also have a question about the CIF form. But I'm gonna go ahead and ask the warrants first because they are item 12.2A. I noticed the bills for the water was paid for Ione L and Ione Junior, and Ione L was only $837 and change, but Ione Junior was $2,600 and change. Aren't there far more students on the Ione L campus?
There's a massive trench at Ione Junior High from a massive water leak, so that explains the bill.
Thank you, that does.
The leak's been fixed?
It's in the process of being fixed.
We also had a large warrant for over $66,000 for the Verkada camera project. Is that our video cameras, our security camera system?
Yeah, I mean, we're taking it in stages. It was a huge project the board approved back in the fall for 1.2 million. So we're rolling out site by site with various stages, and then as they complete portions of the project, we pay them for the portions that have been completed.
How far along are we on that?
Well, it's hard to say percentage-wise. I have an app that we use for the cameras, and I can get on.
Are we gonna be done by the end of the year?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, as long as my two favorite words, supply chain, don't come back to haunt me on that. We have a few pieces of equipment that are still held up in supply chain, which I can't stand those two words, but yeah, the cameras, they've been going in right and left at our schools, covering our campuses, and they've already come in handy for multiple occasions.
So we're using them as soon as they're installed?
Yes.
Okay. So the security cameras must be part of a greater school site safety initiative, correct? We've had some questions about fencing and access to open fields, playgrounds. Can you tell us what those changes have been?
So, I mean, just in general, I mean, we've been working with law enforcement this year on doing assessments of each of our campuses so that we can better secure them. So that's still a work in progress. So I don't know if that's what you're.
Well, I think the concern from the public is that they used to have historically pretty unfettered access to certain school sites, and they are now finding that it's gated off. And that's the concern is, you know, the public feels entitled to use those spaces. I would venture to guess that if I can get through the fence with my dog, so can a nefarious character.
Correct. So, yeah, I can speak to that. What the process is there wasn't one, and now there is one, where.
You mean
we
the
have to-
gate, not a nefarious
As far
character?
as, no, as far as who's allowed on campus and not, there's a misconception out there, and I know I've said this comment and people don't like it all the time, but a public school is not a public park. There is a difference. And so when it comes to public schools, we have outside groups use our facilities all the time. I mean, weekends, all throughout the summer, you name it. But there's a process that they have to follow. And so we are well within our right to secure our campus, and we are open to the public when they go through that process. And there's a facility use process boiling down to, I mean, we have a group of individuals that are organized themselves just so they could go play basketball at Argonaut High twice a week in the morning. And they followed the process and they go get to play basketball before school starts in the morning. And so that's something that we have to be more on top of because our liability is through the roof. We are what is referred to as an attractive nuisance, and we have had situations where individuals have literally broken into one of our gymnasiums, been injured while they were trespassing, and we had to pay the medical bill. And so that's just, I know that doesn't always sit well with people because they might want to just walk to their school at night and play on the playground, but we have to be more careful with how we secure our facilities. And so that there's a whole process that's followed for that.
So there's definitely a sentiment that because schools are funded by tax dollars, that they belong to the people.
So I've used that as an example, like that doesn't mean you get to just walk in the FBI building in Sacramento because you pay your taxes, right? So I know that's a pretty strong statement, but that the taxes are paid for so we have schools to educate our children. They're not taxes to create a public park. And again,
I'm not disagreeing with you, Jared.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the fact that, you know, it is as the chief business executive of this district, that it is your job to look out for the.
No, I know, I don't make friends over this one.
Oh, I know.
That's just, this is part of what I need to do.
Yeah. So, we've been getting asked why. Why can't we used to all the time,
Yeah.
why now? Like, why are you making me public enemy number one?
You're welcome to send any of those people my way, and I'm happy to talk to them. And with many of these community members, I've been able to work with them so they can get an insurance policy in place and semi-organize their group so they can use our facilities. We're not trying to turn people down. The only time people get turned down are basically for two reasons. One, what they want to do conflicts with what's already going on at school, because that's top priority. And I think most people, we don't really have a big issue with that. The second one is a group has to be organized and have insurance coverage. And so I'll use our youth sports as an example. I mean, we know we don't have a lot of public facilities in this county outside of our schools. Most of our youth sports programs wouldn't be able to operate without our schools. Our youth sports programs do a great job of being well organized, having the proper insurance, and they have a ton of access to our schools, but it's all following a process.
Thank you, Jared.
No problem.
I have a question. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Process segue. Can you help me understand the process so I don't violate any Brown Act stuff with me wanting to separate item 12.6 and the whole consent agenda? Would it be ridiculous for me to, or not allowed for me to ask to separate an individual consent agenda item for vote, or like, how does that work?
No, we can separate them. So you can, somebody like, so I would recommend, James, that you then make the motion that you, I'm just going to make this up for you. I'm not speaking for you. That you want to approve the consent agenda minus 12.6, have somebody second it, vote on it, then we come back to 12.6, and 12.6 gets voted on by itself.
Well, that's if they agree to second it.
No, you can request to pull it regardless.
But you said to,
You can just ask to pull it like you just did.
okay, all right.
But then I would say you would then make the motion to approve the consent agenda minus 12.6.
Okay.
And then now 12.6 is going to sit over here while you approve the rest of the consent. Then somebody should make a motion about 12.6.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so,
It would get considered separately as for a vote.
Yes. And that way in the minutes, it'll be separate.
okay, so should I make that motion now or let everybody finish?
I have one more question about the CIF form, and then I think we'd be ready for a motion.
Okay,
I noticed on the CIF form that we have two different forms, one for each high school. We have two different ADs. I was under the impression that we now had one AD. As of August, Mr. Hunkins would be the AD for both schools.
Me or you? Do you want me to go, Jenny, or you want to answer that?
So when we put the district athletic director on the board agenda, we talked about this a little bit. The site athletic directors at the high schools and the junior highs are both built into the ACTA contract. So before we can eliminate any of those positions, it would have to be negotiated with the bargaining unit, which does take time. The other piece is those positions do a ton of supervision. And so it's not, there's a lot of pieces of an athletic director that we still need done at the sites. That supervision piece is huge. A principal or a vice principal can't do every game by themselves, but somebody has to be at every event as kind of the person in charge. And so that is a huge component of why there's still an athletic director tied to each school. The other piece is the district athletic director position that Scott Hunkins was hired for. Just kind of as we've gone through this year, we've realized that there's a ton of work in that 5th through 8th grade component of his job. High school sports are very important, but that's not the totality of the district athletic director's position. And so there's a lot of work that's not has nothing to do with the high schools that Mr. Hunkins is now kind of taking on. Does that answer your question?
It does. I mean, I still misunderstood the entire direction we were heading with that.
It's kind of similar to having the consolidated principals. So we still need those two principals.
That's what I was going to say next.
Yeah, okay.
So, if you parallel it, obviously, we still have principals doing their jobs at their school sites for the next 2 years, while someone else is bringing everybody together, so, okay. Any final questions on?
I have a question following up on the facilities with Mr. Critchfield. Say somebody wanted to go to the high school and run around the track. They don't need a insurance policy or anything? Or are we just talking group activities for the insurance policy?
I'd prefer not to say. I mean, if the campus is open, we're not being that cutthroat. But again, we have to be careful with it. I know at Amador, one of the challenges I had when I was principal was people walking the track in the morning, but then that's spilling into the school day, and I'd have to go up there, and they're like, no, it's, I can walk the track. It's like, no, school has started, you can't. And so, you know, we try to be as secure as possible during the school day, of course, but after the school day, yeah, we're not like going around kicking everybody out.
As long as there's not a school event going on.
Yeah, but I
Okay.
also had an experience, Jim, where I had the same kid that I caught with gymnasium keys in back-to-back weeks. He literally had 2 different keys to our gym, just so he could hang out with his friends. So, I mean, there's a lot we've tried to do to like get a handle on some of these things.
Yeah. I can understand going inside a building.
Yes.
Definitely, that's,
I already forgot what she told me. Can you do that again?
Yep, no problem.
Tell me that again, please.
So you want to make a motion to approve the consent agenda item minus 12.6.
Okay. So then I would like to move to approve the consent agenda minus item 12.6.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll go ahead and second.
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. Well, I'll do a roll call vote, starting with the student advisory members. Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Clement,
Yes.
Mr. Crow,
Yes.
Ms. Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Marzano,
Aye.
Mr. Whitaker,
Yes.
and I'm also a yes. So do we have a motion to vote on item 12.6?
I'll make a motion to approve item 12.6.
Thank you, Mr. Crow. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Clement. Roll call vote, Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Clement,
Yes.
Mr. Crow,
Yes.
Ms. Parker,
No.
Mr. Marzano,
No.
Mr. Whitaker,
Yes.
and I'm also a yes. So that item is a split vote for 12.6. Communications, number 13.
We don't have any at this time.
Moving to item 14, discussion action items. Number 1, request for allowance of attendance, Form J13A, Mr. Critchfield.
Okay, so hopefully this clears up some confusion. If you weren't aware, we canceled a few school days this year, and by few, I mean 8, due to obviously the severe winter weather that we have navigated over the last couple of months especially. And so this J13 waiver form is set up in a process so that we are able to not have to make up the school days that were missed. Okay, and so in our calendar, we build in 2 days that when we start the school year are planned on being non-school days, and they're put on the calendar as snow days. We are changing that vernacular to get everybody on a new term, which we're gonna call emergency school closure days, because there's a multitude of reasons why we might have to close school, not just because of snow. And so when you cancel school for inclement weather, we've canceled for public safety power shutoffs, or whatever it might be, those first 2 days that we cancel are automatically then now need to be made up on those 2 days that we put typically in the late spring, after hopefully the weather has passed us by. If you have any beyond that, you can go through a process of asking the state for a waiver, okay? There's a couple of reasons behind that. First off, I don't think families would embrace adding a school week to the month of June because we had some snow. That typically doesn't go well in districts as families make summer plans. The second reason I have a very vested interest in, which is why I'm the one that's involved in this, is still our number one funding source is how many students we have and how often they attend school. If you don't get a waiver, then those days where we canceled for snow get put on paper as 0 students in attendance, which would have a major factor in our funding. You'll notice if we didn't go through this waiver process and get it approved, it could impact our funding upwards of $2 million. Okay, and so that's how much attendance matters and having kids at school matters when it comes to our finances. And people say, well, you only care about attendance for the money. Well, maybe you could argue that for me in some ways because of what I do, but I think our employees, as good a people as they are, they do appreciate getting paid. So we need to make sure that we have high attendance so that we do earn the money so that we can turn around and pay our employees and operate our schools. We have not had to do a J13 waiver in a few years. The last time we actually did a J13 waiver was during this time that most people don't remember because it was pre-COVID, 2019-20, when we had 6 public safety power shutoffs in the fall of 2019, when they were just starting those public safety power shutoffs, and it felt like every time someone got scared, they just turned the light switch off and we didn't have power in the majority of the county. And so this one, the way the process works is we need board approval tonight, then I submit that to the state for approval. We have already received verbal approval from the state on these days because it just so happens that with this particular year, these days fell on days that were declared a state of emergency by our governor. So that makes the state approval process pretty simple because the governor declared a state of emergency statewide in January, and then he started doing counties at a time. Torrey was heavily involved at the beginning. We were one of the first counties listed in a state of emergency in that February and March wave of storms that we dealt with. And so tonight what we're recommending is that the board approve this J13A waiver, a request for allowance to attendance, and essentially what you're approving is we would now go from 180 school days down to 174. And so we would, for this school year only. And I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Okay, then we need a motion.
I will move to approve item 14.1, request for allowance of attendance form J13A.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. The student votes, Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Clement?
Yes.
Mr. Crow?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Marzano? Mr. Whitaker?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. Item 14.2, Aries Online Enrollment Agreement, Mr. Critchfield.
This is, I think this is exciting, but I work with numbers all day, so excitement's easy for me at times when I get out of that world. We are in the dark ages when it comes to enrolling new students. It's paper packets everywhere you go. So the family, if they're new to the district, they have to come in, physically arrive at the school and get a packet, fill it all out, and then one of our site staff, if you're at an elementary or a junior high, it's a site secretary or an office clerk. If you're at a high school, it's the registrar. They then have to hand key in all of that information on the student. Aries has the ability already, we just haven't tapped into it, to do online registration. And so this is an additional cost to our contract. I believe we're gonna save well beyond that in staff time, paper, you name it, where now a family moves into the district and if they come to the school, we can hand them a Chromebook and they can fill it out. If they say they don't have internet access, yeah, we can still do a paper packet. but this is actually pretty mobile friendly as well. And so as we've seen, our enrollment continues to increase, not in leaps and bounds, but we're seeing incremental increases. But what a lot of people don't see is how many new enrollments we have every year, because there's plenty of people that move out of the county every year too. And so when we look at, we have 75 more students this April than we did last April. That doesn't reflect 75 new enrollments. That probably reflects 300 to 400 enrollments, because we had a couple hundred kids leave the district as well. So the net change is 75, but that doesn't mean we had that few of new enrollments in the district. And so this is just getting up with the times and technology and allowing new families the opportunity to enroll at one of our schools online instead of having to fill out a paper packet.
Does anyone have questions? So we're not eliminating any staff with adding the online, we're not eliminating any jobs, right?
No.
I feel like I've already been doing this online for my kids at Amador, where they make me do it every school year. I have to do it on Aries, I have to log in. I think I used to do the emergency cards that way, and now I do it all online. Is that
Yeah,
the
we set up the
process?
emergency cards that way that were already in existence, that you could just confirm that the emergency card is still accurate or make any changes, but that was for existing families, right? And so this is now set up for someone moves to the district, they would need to enroll, and they're able to start that process. And it helps for error. I feel bad for we deal with numerous calls every year where it's like, I didn't get the Parent Square notification. And then we look up their phone number and somebody just transposed 2 digits. We can't expect our secretaries to get a full enrollment packet that's handwritten and get every single little thing in there right. Where now the family's putting it in, it goes to the secretary or registrar to review, mostly to see is there any missing information. But I also think it will increase the accuracy of the student records we have.
Okay. Does anyone have any additional questions? If not, we're ready for a motion.
I'll go ahead and move that we accept item 14.2, the Aries Online Enrollment Agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. Second?
I'll second.
Oh, sorry.
Either way.
No, go ahead.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. Roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Clement?
Yes.
Mr. Crow?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Marzano?
Aye.
Mr. Whitaker?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. 14.3, MOU between County of Calaveras Library and ACUSD.
Yeah, we've done this the last few years, so especially for our new board members, just to back up, the first thing that happens is this is made possible because of the Seamless Summer Meal Program. So our food services director, Mike Pingree, has been really at the forefront of making sure that we have these programs in place that are free to the community and free to us as well. They are subsidized by the government. And so for the last, I want to say at least 4 summers, we've done what's called the Seamless Summer Meal Program. So at multiple school campuses, if the rule is if the individual appears to be under the age of 18, then they can walk up and we give them a free meal, and it's a breakfast and a lunch. That is not something that's my understanding is happening to the fullest in Calaveras County. And so the library has some programs where a lot of kids are near the Calaveras Library during the summer. They actually send staff to Jackson and pick up meals every day that they then bring back to Calaveras County. We're reimbursed by every meal we prep. And so it doesn't matter if we do more meals. There's not a cost to the district. So the Seamless Summer Meal Program is something we do separately, but because of it, we now have this MOU, and I think this will be the 3rd year in a row, if approved, that we do this MOU, where now we're actually providing food to children in Calaveras County and Amador County. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
If there are no questions, we can entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve item 14.3.
Thank you, Mr. Crow. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Clement?
Yes.
Mr. Crow?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Marzano?
Aye.
Mr. Whitaker?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Critchfield. 14.4, CTE program purchase of 2 vehicles. Mr. Snyder.
Yes, thank you. So the purchase of these vehicles was actually written into the 2020-21 CTIG grant, it's called, Career Technical Education Incentive Grant. And so a couple things about that. First of all, that means that it doesn't have any impact on the general fund budget, the district bottom line. It's completely funded by the CTIG grant that come to us from the state. We apply for that yearly. And also, so because it was written into there, we need to deliver on what was put into that application. And we're a little behind on this. However, our current CTE coordinator, Andrew Gardner, did locate 2 Chevy Suburbans in Roseville that will fulfill this grant budgeted item. And our FFA programs and just the ag programs in general go to a lot of events throughout the county, out of the area, out of the county. They go to the state conference, and we did purchase a couple pickup trucks a couple of years ago that, you know, help tow trailers and things like that. These Suburbans also have the ability to tow trailers with livestock and whatever that may be. But given the increase in van drivers we've hired, there's just a lot of competing priorities for district vans or things like that when there's an FFA event, and this just alleviates some of that. It allows us to use CTE funds to alleviate some of the stress on the white fleet or those district vans, and so the purchase benefits us in many different ways. So I would be happy to answer any questions at this time or facilitate any additional conversation.
I have a question, one of which you've already answered, that it's in the grant and everything, and we bought 2 pickup trucks a couple of years ago. Maintenance, is that being covered by the grant also, or, you know, is that gonna be a district cost?
So it depends on what it is, Jim. I mean, so some of the simple things, this will just go to the transportation yard and they'll do it. But yeah, we will pull from those funds for tire replacements, because that's, I mean, these vehicles, the tires are not cheap, right? On a big Suburban or a truck now, you know, tires, any major maintenance, then yeah, it could also come through this grant as well.
Okay, and also about storage of these, because I know in the past, storing vehicles has been kind of a questionable item because they get tampered with, fuel lines cut for fuel prices, I know we're getting cameras and everything, but where are they gonna be secured at?
So right now, they put the ag trucks in the fenced-in yard. Once our cameras are fully operable, there's a camera covering those areas. I think already those cameras are working for covering those areas, and in a fenced-in yard at both schools.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. Any other questions? I'm ready for a motion.
I move to approve item 14.4, the program purchase of 2 vehicles.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Parker and Mr. Whitaker. Roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Clement?
Yes.
Mr. Crow?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Marzano?
Aye.
Mr. Whitaker?
Yes.
I'm also a yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. 14.5, board policy updates. We have 2. The first one is Human Resources, Mrs. DeWalt. And then we also have one from the Superintendent Office, Dr. Gibson. I don't know if you guys wanted to make comments.
Just if you guys have questions. They're both pretty straightforward.
So the human resource one over dismissal, suspension, that doesn't seem like that's new. Requests who timely requests a hearing pending the outcome of that hearing. Isn't that a courtesy that haven't we always done that? I didn't realize that was new.
Hold on a second. No, there are parts of this that are new.
Okay.
Yeah. They've really put some timelines on this stuff so that the employees' rights are maintained sooner rather than, I think what happens in a lot of school districts, fortunately, we're not one of them, but there are districts, and I think union leaders would agree with this, not necessarily our immediate, but those who work at the office level of CSEA and CTA, that there are some districts that keep people out for months and months and months and months and months when they really don't need to be. And they need to speed up the process, and I think that's where a lot of this the new laws are coming from.
And then the other board bylaw is in reference to conflict of interest for financial gain.
Yeah, so that just is an update to the Form 700s that we have to do and some of those pieces. I think the conflict of interest piece is really critical going forward, as they've made quite a few updates and changes to that that I think we'll have to look at as a board, as a team.
Well, I don't think any of us manage any public investments either, so.
Right.
Okay, if you guys do not have any questions or comments, we need a motion.
Okay, I will move to approve item 14.5, board policy updates.
Thank you, Ms. Parker.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Roll call vote, Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Clement?
Yes.
Mr. Crow?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Marzano?
Aye.
Mr. Whitaker?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes. That concludes the discussion action items for tonight. Thank you, Ms. DeWalt and Dr. Gibson. On to reports. Dr. Gibson, did you want to start us off?
Yeah, I just have one. I actually have some on the county side, but for right now, on the district side. Today I sent the board an email, and actually I probably need to email the two of you as well as student board members and include you in strategic planning. I think that would probably be important. But for the board, I know we had talked about with strategic planning that we were going to kind of hold off and do this next step in the process for kind of a 2-year plan. I had Sean, Mr. Schneider, join me today in a meeting with a couple different people as we were trying to kind of process through our next steps. As the board is aware, we've been working on that West Ed report and really pulling that apart. It has taken us a big chunk of the school year to make that happen. It's a huge undertaking that our district leadership team has done, and we're really excited about that work. But after speaking with Doug from Mr. Domeni from Leadership Associates, and he saw the work that we have done already, I think we decided to go in a slightly different direction, which is positive in that we're further ahead than we had thought we would be at this point. So long story short, I invited all the board to attend on May 4th for strategic planning. If you can make it, that would be great. It's fine that you're all 5 there. I will have Lori post it kind of as a study session. There will be no open or close. We'll explain that it's strategic planning when we post it, just so then that way we don't violate any Brown Act. And the only purpose for being there that day is just for that piece. So you should have received that invite. And Mr. Smith and Ms. Clement, I will make sure that I put you on the invite as well if you would like to attend.
It's a Thursday.
May 4th. May the 4th be with you.
I have my AP Stats test.
I figured you guys would. That's why I think okay, well, next time. That darn AP Stats.
Thank you, Dr.
Just skip it. You'll be fine. I don't understand the problem.
Stats test anyway. Thank you, Dr. Gibson. Mr. Crow? Oh, sorry. I gotta let the kids go first. Mr. Smith.
Thank you. I'll try to make this quick. We had prom this last weekend, Saturday. It was great at St. Sava. The juniors put on a great show. We had about nearly 300 people from my school show up, which is basically the juniors and seniors of my whole high school. So it was great. Believe both your son and daughter showed up, Miss Burns. It was great time. And Mr. Marzano, your son, and I don't believe, so it was a great time. Great time all around. I danced the night away, and yeah. And then I had a band concert this last week. I saw Mr. Snyder there. It was a great thing to do. The junior high came out, and it's always a fun thing to do. We'll have another one in May, and I'll let you guys know the next time that happens.
Yeah, because I like the big one.
That's the mega band concert, yes. I think sometime in May, which mega band means like elementary, junior high, everyone. So, do you know the date at all, anyone?
We don't have the date on that. Mr. Fellman is working with the other two because it's a big thing to pull off, but we will figure that out, and we'll get
Yes.
the date out just as soon as we can.
Yeah, it's a great event. Yeah, and then, sports at my school have just been flowing right along. There's track, tennis, swim, well, I guess not really swim at my school, I guess, I don't know. Baseball, softball, all sorts of stuff going on. They're just games every other day, it feels like. There's like half the school missing for track, as always, because there's a lot of track people. But yeah, and for some odd reason, I just found out that volleyball is actually starting up their spring, like, practicing, which is great. Soccer as well. So, yes. And then I saw today the esports presentation. Thought that was amazing. We have a little team at Amador High School too. It's not as seems as complex as the Argonaut one, but it's just a great thing that we have in our county, I think. Mr. Tierpak does a great job. Yes, I'm not trying to downplay that at all, but yeah, esports is awesome. And yeah, a few things coming up. We have a thing that we are now calling Y Games at Amador High School. Yes, it used to be called X Games. We call it Y Games now because we lost a member of Amador High School last year, Dylan Yoakum, and this will be the second annual Y Games, and it will continue to do so for as long as we can have it. And yeah, it's a lot of fun, just a fun day for our school, basically celebrating the school year for all the students, and we have a whole bunch of stuff. We're trying to get laser tag there, all sorts of stuff. So yeah, that's a fun thing. Blood drive is coming up. What? He's laughing over there.
I was just gonna say, let me know what you're doing so we get all the insurance covered. I don't wanna have to
okay.
snarf
Gotcha,
out
I
your
gotcha.
fun, Preston.
That's just the plan, okay? We'll see,
No,
we'll
we
see.
can
Yeah.
make it happen.
No, I
Just
know.
Give me proper notice and I'll help you, okay?
Gotcha, thank you.
Let the fun spoilers know before you have it.
Of course, yes. Hey, I'm not in charge of planning it. So, and then there's the blood drive we're having at Amador High School on May 11th. A lot of people signed up so far, so if you want to donate blood, sign up quick. And yeah. My senior trip is happening on May 12th, the next day. And that'll be super fun going to San Francisco again. And yeah, it'll be a great time, a dinner cruise and everything. And then AP testing is the first 2 weeks of May, which is very stressful for me and Maeve right now, and most of other students like us. So yeah. Last thing is I'm excited for warmer weather, and it has been. So that's it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Ms. Clement?
Yeah, so I kind of just gonna reiterate a lot of the things Preston said, but we also have all of our spring sports going on. A standout this year is our boys varsity baseball team. They're like doing really well. I know they won most of their games, and then
How'd they do tonight?
I don't know actually. I was wondering
I should
because
have asked Neil. He was here.
yeah, they're playing Calaveras, who I think is their biggest competition this year. Yeah.
I wanted to ask Maeve how she did today.
Oh, I won my match. It
Exactly.
definitely went longer than I had planned it to, but it's fine. I pulled out the win anyway. So.
That girl.
Yeah. And then we finished CASP testing, I think it was the first week of April, maybe the last week of March, but I know everyone's kind of happy to be done with that. So the rest of the year is just smooth sailing. And then these past, I think it was 2 weeks, our drama program put on shows for the elementary students. So I don't know exactly what play they performed, but they came and I think Ione Elementary and Jackson Elementary students came and watched the play, and I know a lot of them really enjoyed it. So that was really cool. And then drama also has the Motherlode Drama Festival this weekend, which I know they're performing a play. It's called A Round of Revenge, which one of the students at Argonaut wrote. So I really want to see that because I know she put a lot of work into curating that. It's at Amador, yeah. So yeah, I'm super excited for her and happy that her work, like how much work she's put into creating the play will be performed and shown to the community. Our tennis team is having a car wash fundraiser at Mel's this weekend. So if any of you guys want your car washed, we'd be glad to clean your car. I think it's from 12 to 3. So anytime between there.
Saturday?
Yes. Saturday. Yeah. And then I think it was 2 weeks ago we had the fentanyl assembly that took place at Amador, which, like Preston said, was super moving and informative. And I really thank Mr. Snyder for putting that assembly together because I know a lot of students felt really touched by it. And a lot of people had experiences, unfortunately, with fentanyl in their family and friends. So I'm really glad we got to learn about the harmful effects and how present it is in society. And I know a lot of people were just super moved. Like the lady that came and spoke had an amazing story that really just touched everyone who was there. And it was probably one of the first assemblies we've had where it was just silent in the entire room and everyone was just paying attention to what the presenters had to say. So that was a really great assembly. And then this Thursday we have our top 10 breakfast, which is organized by our counselors, which is a great event that recognizes the academic achievements of students at Argonaut. So I know a lot of people are looking forward to that. And then, like Preston said, we also have AP testing coming up. So all the classes are just trying to finish covering all of the content. And then I know it's stressful for students starting to study for all their classes. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have.
Thank you. That was a lot. I hope you get some good attendance at your car wash. It sounds like you might. Mr. Crow, did you have a board report?
Yeah, I just have a little story about events that happened this morning. Let me get this, make sure I get this right. Mrs. Crow's Mod Severe 5th grade class was going out to the Argonaut track to do the mile for the state testing. And when they arrived, they found a rather large group of high school kids on the track, and the teachers are starting to freak out a little bit, wondering, okay, how are we going to do this testing? And the students were moved up into the bleachers, and so the 5th graders were split up into 2 groups, and they were opposite of each other on the track, and they started going around the track to get their mile. And all of the high school students started cheering for them. And so all of these special ed kids, it might be the only time in their lives that they have someone cheering for them on a track. And when it was over, they were so proud of the students cheering them on and telling the teachers, oh, did you hear that? They're cheering us on. And so I thought everyone should know this story. And I don't know if there's a video of it, but I heard that some of the teachers or aides started getting dust in their eyes during the run. So I just thought that was a good story to share.
Thank you, Mr. Crow. Ms. Parker?
I do not have a report today.
Okay. Mr. Marzano?
I don't have a report.
Mr. Whitaker?
Very quick, Maeve took most of it. I asked Mr. Snyder if I could attend the Fentanyl Awareness Assembly because I wanted to see what was going on. And as Maeve said, it was a very moving experience. Kids were very well respected. Afterwards, Troy saw me and pulled me into the play. It's Alice in Wonderland. And they had the kids interacting with them. So, you know, when they had the cards out there, they were out there with the cards and everything. And they really got the young primary students well involved in it, and everyone was having a good time. So it was a good day there.
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. I have a quick report. I would like to shout out Ms. Pam Benson, who is on our personnel report, as she will be retiring soon. So congratulations, Pam. The Earth Day, so this weekend is going to be hugely busy with the drama festival and the car wash. Also, this weekend, Saturday the 22nd, the first Earth Day 5K to benefit Amador Cross Country and Amador Earth, is it Earth Club? Environmental Club?
Yes.
Environmental Club,
Environmental Club, yes.
Okay, with the help of the Motherlode Land Trust and Amador Trail Stewardship. There is no registration fee, but they are accepting donations to support the students. And finally, I feel like I need to encourage people to attend the 25th annual Celebrate Our Children event at Argonaut, 11 to 2. So maybe after you get your car washed, you go over to the Celebrate Our Children Festival. Now that we are expanding to pre-K and TK, that's obviously something that we will be encouraging people to participate in. Thank you. Our next regular meeting is Wednesday, May 10th, tentatively scheduled to be held here at the County Administration Building. Open session will start at 6:30. We are adjourned. It is 9:24. Do we need to extend? But is it gonna be 5 minutes? Can we go to 10:30? Does our 4 hours start at 5:30 or 6:30? 6:30. Okay, we're fine.
Can we use the restroom?
Yes, please. Have a break. over here. Okay. We're gonna call to order the ACOE board meeting. It is 9:30. Dr. Gibson, are there any deletions or corrections to the agenda?
No.
Thank you. We have no presentations or recognitions. We do have some employee representatives here tonight. Ms. Angie, did you want to make comments?
She's not here.
She's not here. Ms. Matheson is here. Would you like to make comments?
Thank you guys for waiting so patiently through the other meeting. I know it's been late. Perfect, that's fine.
I'll stay awake, I promise. Okay, so I'm Megan Matheson, the CSEA 827 chapter president, and Andrea and I, and Jamie Hatton, she had to leave though, it got too late, all attended paraeducator conference like Amy did, and we really appreciate being able to go, so thank you for paying for that. And Andrea's gonna speak first.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. Good evening, Superintendent Gibson, and the presiding school board president, and school board members and cabinet members. Thank you for this opportunity for me to show gratitude in supporting the classified staff to attend CSEA Paraeducator Conference that took place earlier this month in Ontario, California. This event takes place every year, and there was approximately 1,300 attendees. I love this conference. I find it very educational. Some classes I took were on CalPERS benefit basics, verbal judo, introduction to neurodiversity, student engagement using ed tech tools, and an introduction to the what and nots of attention deficit hyperactivity disorders and their implications. This class was presented by the Diagnostic Center of Southern California. It was shared with us in taking this class that the diagnostic centers offer free classes and trainings to school districts. At one time, we had Fresno Diagnostic Center come to Amador County and do trainings on our minimum days. I hope in the future we will see them come and do trainings for us again. And I truly mean that. Their trainings were amazing. I really think that there's great value in having them come and speak on all the different types of disabilities that come through our special ed classrooms. My favorite class was the Professionalism 101, Business Practices for Today's Diverse Workforce. It spoke about the different generations with the important events that occurred during those times with defining traits that prioritize the values due to those events. For example, baby boomers was the civil rights movement. The defining trait was work-centric, and prioritized value was conflict avoidance. Gen X was the Challenger crash, and the defining trait was self-centric, and the prioritized value was confrontation. Next was the millennials, were the movement of the iPhone and Facebook, with the defining trait of the social-centric, and their prioritized value was resistant and protest. Then there's the Gen Z, with Columbine being that the schools were no longer safe for students and that the bigger and the faster was the defining trait, and the prioritized value was advocacy. All right, lastly is the alphas. They are coming next. They are the 2001 to 2023 generation of the COVID-19 pandemic. Their defining trait is group storming, and their prioritized value is everything is optional and nothing is required. Thank you for listening to me speak and talk about my experiences at Paraeducator Conference. I hope you have a nice evening.
I have just a little bit to add. My favorite part of the Paraeducator Conference was a session done by Ariana Toves called Invisible Injuries, Imposter Syndrome, and Compassion Fatigue. Did you know that someone can be traumatized by being exposed to someone else's trauma? I didn't know that. She also talked about how important mental health is. Everyone needs a support system, but especially when you're taking care of the physical and emotional needs of an entire classroom of children. Without support, you may experience compassion fatigue, which is what happens before burnout. The session helped me understand why we are all exhausted at the end of the day. It also made me realize supporting coworkers is so important. Everyone needs to hear they're doing a good job once in a while. We couldn't do this work on our own. We all need each other. And that was it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, you guys. We love hearing about what you learn and how you're re-energized when you go off to the conferences. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That was a really great review. I loved it. Thanks.
It's weird to think about my kids having a generation, like with characteristics and stuff. They're just kids. Okay. Public comments. Do we have any public comments? No. Consent agenda. Are there any questions on the consent agenda? If not, we can make a motion.
I will move to approve item 8, the consent agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Crow. Roll call vote. Mr. Crow?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Marzano?
Aye.
Mr. Whitaker?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. We do not have any communications, correct? Correct. Discussion action items. It's a companion item to the district meeting request for allowance of attendance form J13A. Mr. Critchfield.
Yeah, we just technically have 2 schools on the county office side, the Amador County Special Education School, which runs our adult transition program, and then community court school. So it's the same as on the district side, but we need to do the waiver on the county side because those are actually county office run schools.
Thank you. If there are no questions, we can have a motion.
I move we approve item 10.1, request for allowance of attendance J13A.
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Crow. Roll call vote. Mr. Crow?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Marzano?
Aye.
Mr. Whitaker?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. That concludes the discussion action items. There were current personnel recommendations. Are there any additional reports?
I just want, since this is on the county side, I apologize I missed the last meeting. I was just coming back from Washington DC. I was actually on a flight during the board meeting. And the time in DC was really, it was really a remarkable experience. There were 9 of us county superintendents out of 58 who went back with California county superintendents and did advocacy work for 3 days. And it was, I think we clocked about 23 miles across 3 days. It's a hustle and bustle, that's for sure. But we were able to meet with 1 senator and multiple people from Congress, both themselves as well as their staff, just depending on their schedules. Everything was in session, so it was extraordinarily busy that particular week. But we had many members who stepped out of the middle of their sessions and their meetings to take the time to meet with us and hear our concerns. A couple of the big highlights that we were advocating for, number 1 was for full funding of IDEA. Currently, we are funded, we're supposed to, by law, we're supposed to be funded at a much higher level than we are. And we're actually below 2008 funding currently from the federal government for special education, which is 12%. The highest we've ever gotten is 18%. And by law, we're supposed to be funded at 40%. So just keeping that on their radar, that was one of the big ones. A couple of the others were connectivity issues through E-rate, not an E-rate issue, but more of an issue around the big companies who took funding for connectivity purposes, who in rural areas are not using the funding to put in what they were supposed to put in. So for a place like Amador County, it's a problem. We have many dark spots where we don't have connectivity for our kids. And so we had long conversations about that. I think we had 6 total, but these are kind of the big 3. The final one that was the big 3 was about Head Start, which is our state preschool program. And that one didn't involve money ask. It was really around asking them to redo the limits for those who qualify. So the limits haven't caught up with COLAs. They haven't changed the rules in like 20 years. So we all know what COLAs we've had. I mean, I just know what COLAs we've had in the last few years that are pretty astronomical. And so every county has multiple Head Start slots that we just can't fill because people don't qualify. So it's really just asking them and putting it on their radar, hey, we just need for you to change the parameters and get them up to date. So, but overall, it was a great experience. We often broke into teams of 2. We actually went to the speaker's office and met with a speaker, which was great. He took about 20 minutes with us, which was a lot of time. We met in the vice president's chambers with her chief of staff, which was really fantastic, and they've reached out to us since then. So just really forming those relationships with our lawmakers on the county side, obviously. It was a wonderful experience. I look forward to going back and advocating for our kids. And then thank you again for moving this meeting. Tomorrow I have to be at a FICMAT meeting, which is a whole nother level of interestingness. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gibson. Did anybody have anything to add? No, okay. Then our next regular COE meeting is Wednesday, May 10th, same as the district meeting, tentatively scheduled to be held here at the county building. Open session will start immediately following the ACUSD meeting. We are adjourned. It is 9:42.